Good morning and welcome to Changing the World with God and with Good. Well, for about 5 or 10 minutes or so, I get to share God with you, sharing universal kingdom truths that are meant for all of humanity, that were given in the beginning of God sending humanity into the earth. And because God is the beginning and the end, because He's consistent, because He's uniform, and because He's fair, He had to establish some universal kingdom truths into the earth that would apply for all of humanity. And sharing those truths with you is why God sent me into the earth, which is why I'm able to share truths with you that are without religious bias, without ethnic bias, without gender bias, political bias, or national bias. They're just universal truths that are were meant to apply to all of humanity, irrespective of where you live in the earth, irrespective of the time you lived in the earth, irrespective of all the things that we use to self-identify. And just for a moment this morning, I want to talk to you from the subject, grace and salvation through sports. Grace and salvation through sports. And I came up with this title because it was, and again, I say that I came up with it, but truly it was God inspired, because out of nowhere it came, and it allows me to use a subject, sports, that so many of us are familiar with. And in using that, it allows me to frame what grace and what salvation really is. And in using grace and salvation through sports, there's two things that I want to help you to see. One, I want you to understand God's grace, and two, I want to help you to get to the ultimate, which is heaven. I want you to understand through the analogies that I will use how God grace is sufficient, and how God extends His grace upon us day in, day out, minute by minute, second by second. And then I want to help you to see how grace gives us the opportunity to make it to heaven. Somebody say amen. Now, when thinking about God's grace, I want, and in using sports, I want you to think about all three of the major sports. I'm going to talk about baseball, I'm going to talk about basketball, and I'm going to talk about football. And in thinking about grace as it relates to sports and basketball in particular, I want you to understand that grace is, let's take and look at this thing from the perspective of you being a player, and think about the fact that you are a player that has routinely, consistently found yourself missing shots that you were supposed to make, shots that you make in practice all the time, shots that the coach knows you're capable of making, but for whatever reason, every time you get into the game, you seem to miss routine shots. You miss wide open layups. You just seem to not be able to get it right and make a basket. I mean, it's almost like not hustling. Coach knows that you have the ability to hustle, knows that you're equipped to be able to run up and down the court. But for whatever reason, you decide that you're not going to hustle, or you're not going to play defense. I mean, you know that you're capable of doing. Coach knows that you're capable of standing up and being seen, but for whatever reason, you've decided that you're not going to do what you're capable of doing. But what grace, and where grace shows up, is grace is when the coach says, you know what, I know that you hadn't done all that you're supposed to do. I know you've missed shots that you're supposed to make, that you make in your sleep, but my grace, I'm going to call your number, and I'm going to put you back in the game. See, somebody has been in a situation where you know that you hadn't done all that God expects of you to do, but God continued to wake you up. God continued to allow His grace to continually sustain you. God's grace kept life and oxygen in and exhaling out of your body. See, you didn't do all that you were supposed to do, just like that that basketball player who wasn't doing all that he was supposed to do. But grace, 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 God's grace and the coach's grace allows each of those entities to call your name again and say, this time I'm going to give you another shot at doing what I know that you're capable of doing. That's grace. That's grace. It's the same thing if you look at the sport of baseball. It's like having that player that can just swing and everybody knows he's a talented player. Everybody knows that he can hit the ball to every corner, every field of the baseball diamond. But for whatever reason, he finds himself striking out over and over and over. I mean, he's in a slump. I mean, he couldn't hit. I mean, he can't hit. I mean, if it was on a tee, he just can't seem to be able to hit the ball. I mean, it's like that player that has a golden glove, but for whatever reason is just committing error after error after error. I mean, on routine plays that I mean little leaguers should be making. This player who's in the big leagues is just committing error after error, or even worse, he's not even hustling to make the plays anymore. He's just decided for whatever reason that he's not going to stand up and be seen and to do what he's capable of doing. But see, grace is like that manager or that coach saying, I know that you're not doing what you're capable of doing. I know you're not even hustling the way that I know that I've seen you hustle before. But grace says that I'm going to call your number again. Get in the batter's box and get ready to hit. Grab your glove and get ready to go out into the field. Yes, I'm going to call your name. See, somebody knows that God has called your name even after he saw that you didn't hustle, even after he saw you start speaking out of your tongue. Out of your mind. You start using words and saying things that you know weren't pleasing unto him. You started finding yourself in places that you knew he wasn't pleased with, but you're listening to my voice today. You're watching me on this video. So that tells you that God's grace saw you in spite of yourself and continue to call your name, to continue to call your number and say, my beloved, come on, get back into the game. I've got yet more for you to do. It's time for you to right your wrong. See, that's grace. I want you to understand, beloved, that is grace. I mean, it's the same thing. And if you look at the other sport of football, I mean, you think about that player. And many of us are Monday morning quarterbacks. I mean, but think about the running back that has gone down in the red zone or on the end or on the goal line. And every time they give him the ball, he fumbles. I mean, he turns the ball over right when it's time to go into the end zone. I mean, series after series. In the first quarter, he fumbles. In the second quarter, he fumbles. In the third quarter, he fumbles twice right there at the goal line. I mean, think about the quarterback that's right there about to go in and just for whatever reason throws unchallenged interceptions after interception. I mean, unforced. I mean, almost like he's playing for the other team. Just throw interception after interception. Or that defender that just missing routine tackles. I mean, think about how you respond on Monday after you watch the games on Sunday. You're talking to the TV saying, take him out. Take him out. He don't deserve to play. Take him out. Take him out. Why is he still in the game? But yet and still the coach calls his name. See, that's grace. See, somebody has had somebody count you out and say, take him out the game. He don't deserve to live. She don't deserve to have happiness. But God's grace said, no. Irrespective of the fact that you hadn't stood up and been all that I called you to be, my grace is sufficient, and I'm going to have grace on you, just like that football coach that says, hey, I know that you're falling short. I know you didn't get it right, but come on, it's time to go back into the game. God is saying that to somebody. It's time for you to go back into the game. I know they counted you out. I know on Monday morning they were Monday morning quarterbacking, saying that you didn't deserve it. You put yourself in that situation, so you should remain there. But my grace says, get on up. I'm putting you back in the game. It's time for you to get in the game, show up and show out. See, that's God's grace. God's grace is like a coach that gives you another opportunity. Gives you another opportunity, and that's what grace does. Grace allows us the opportunities to show up. But how many of you know that grace may give you the opportunity to show up, but it's performance that gets you into the Hall of Fame? See, coach can put you in the game repeatedly. His grace can make him call your number and your name repeatedly. But unless you get in the game and you perform to the best of your ability, then there's no Hall of Fame for you. See, I'm talking about getting to the ultimate, and the ultimate for us must be heaven. See, the ultimate for a big leaguer, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, is the Hall of Fame, where our ultimate has to be heaven. And just as that big leaguer can expect to get into the Hall of Fame without performing, we should not allow religion or anything else to convince us that we can get into heaven without performance. We've got to perform. We've got to stand up and be seen and be counted. We've got to allow our lights to so shine before men that they might see our good works, that God might be glorified. See, the grace gives us the opportunity to show up, but performance allows us to walk ourselves into the Hall of Fame. And see, I'm just here to tell you so that you not be deceived in thinking that it's about what somebody else has done for you, as opposed to what you must do for somebody else. See, God is looking for what you are willing to do. I remember Kennedy said, ask not what your nation or your country can do for you. Ask yourself what you can do for your country. See, God ain't concerned about what many of us think that Jesus did for us, or what Muhammad did for us, or what Abraham did for us. He's concerned with what we will do for him. See, you've got to perform if you want to make it into the Hall of Fame. And see, our Hall of Fame is heaven. See, God is calling us, and he's saying, I've seen that you're falling. I know that you didn't do all that you were capable of doing, because see, I know you, and I know you better than you know yourself. See, I know that you've got strength, and you even know that you hadn't done all that you could do. But I'm calling you because my grace says, get on up. I'm calling your name again. Now it's time for you to stand up, and it's time for you to embody God's kingdom characteristics, the kind of character, the universal characteristics that are pleasing unto him. See, he's calling you to perform and to stand up and be and live as in love. He's saying, there's some things that you've got to do to get into the Hall of Fame. There's some things you got to do to embody and to inhabit or to inherit heaven. See, it's not just because what you think somebody else did for you. It's about what you will do. And God is saying, see, there are some kingdom characteristics that I established in the beginning. And because I am the beginning and the end, because I am consistent, because I am fair, because I am uniform, I'm not changing what my expectations of you are because time has evolved. No. I am, and I am the same that I was in the beginning. And in the beginning, I expected humanity to embody the kingdom characteristic of love. And in the end, I expect them to embody the kingdom characteristic of love. If you're trying to get into the Hall of Fame, you've got to perform. And God is expecting you to perform with love. He's expecting you to exhibit and to embody peace. He's expecting you to exhibit and to embody compassion. Yes, I'm talking to you. See, you can't, don't allow yourself to be deceived into thinking that God isn't counting what you say, what you do, what you think. Because even as Jesus said, every idle word that a man shall speak, will he have to give an account to on his day of judgment. And think not that you can say, Lord, Lord, and that will be enough, because not everyone that says unto him, Lord, Lord, shall enter into heaven, but only they that do, only they that perform. See, you've got to perform, beloved. I'm talking to you. And see, God expects you to embody the kingdom characteristic of compassion, of mercy, of honesty, of gratitude, yes, of forgiveness, of tolerance, yes, of fairness. See, again, there's a difference. Grace gets us the opportunity, but performance gets us into the Hall of Fame. And I want you to get into the Hall of Fame. God didn't send you away from heaven. See, you got to understand that we all started in heaven, and he sent us into the earth to navigate earth, that we might allow his kingdom characteristics that he embodied and he instilled in us to guide us back home. See, it's like sending your children off to school every day. You give them all the things that they need, and you send them out to school, hoping that they will navigate their way through the school day, that they'll make it back home. Well, God is the same in the fact that he sent us into the earth to navigate through the earth, that we might allow our lights to shine before man, that they might see our good works, and that he might be glorified, that through that we might multiply. See, you got to understand that the first thing, according to the Bible, that God spoke unto humanity was to be fruitful, to bear fruits, to be good, to embody the kingdom characteristics of good, and then to multiply. See, we multiply by allowing our lights of good to shine before men, that they might see our good works and be attracted to what they see in us. And then we are to replenish, and then we are to subdue. That's performance. You've got to perform if you want to be in the Hall of Fame. And our Hall of Fame, the ultimate, is heaven. Make it your business to perform, that you might inherit heaven as your permanent home. I love you. I thank you for tuning in. And until next time.